happy. I'm sitting there counting down Jackson like we're getting ready to launch the nuclear codes or something like that, or hit the nuclear codes because Lucas wants a song during the commercial break that we peer pressured him into finding before we came back. And he failed. He failed miserably. What's your excuse? No. You can't buy yourself time with one song to play another song. That's not how this works. Who is this?
Wild Feathers' new album coming out in October, and they have just put out this single. It's called Sanctuary, and go check it out. Great guys, great music, and the album is fantastic.
We haven't talked to the boys in a while. Are they playing in the golf thing at Greystone on Friday? They sometimes do.
There's a few spots open. I believe 4 teams available for our golf event Friday at Greystone Golf Club in Dixon.
You hear that, Ricky? I know you're somewhere out there. Joel, you want to play some golf? You can join us at Greystone Golf Course.
Yesterday was Joel's birthday, so happy birthday to Joel King, the bass player for the Wild Feathers.
Do we have the necessary welcoming committee or celebration?
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
We've gotten away from that, and I would like to get back to it at some point.
So we went back to the initial one, the first happy birthday from Stephen A.
Yeah, I was trying something different. You know, you just gotta. Sometimes change is good. Sometimes change is bad. Sometimes change is good because it's so bad and it makes you go back to the thing that was good. So that's how we got around to it.
Can we play a game?
Yes.
You're listening to Big Deal, Little Deal, or No Deal after day one of mandatory minicamp at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. So, Buck Rising, of the Titans players that were not on the field for day one of mandatory minicamp, let's get some minicamp musings in here. If you think it was a big deal, a little deal, or no deal that Jeffrey Simmons continues to miss time throughout the offseason program and was not out there for day one of mandatory minicamp.
No deal. He's there. He's there. I don't need to know what Jeff can do without pads on. I am good with Jeff taking whatever time he needs to work on whatever he needs to do. I believe he has his upcoming football camp in Mississippi coming up here in the near future. I have no concerns, no cares at this particular point in time on Wednesday, June the 5th at 10:22 a.m. about Jeffrey Simmons' lack of on-field availability at mandatory minicamp yesterday.
Titans news yesterday that they have signed defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat to his rookie contract, the last 2024 draft pick to get his deal done, but the second-round pick has put ink to paper. He was not out there on the field in the bubble for the first day of minicamp. Big deal, little deal, or no deal for T'Vondre Sweat?
It's a little deal because whatever it wasn't supposed to keep him off the field for an extended period of time. And by nature of it being, the last time that we saw him on the practice field was was rookie minicamp, which was a month ago at this point? A little less than a month ago? Right around Steeplechase, I want to say.
Yeah, because they were putting out videos of him catching passes out there.
Yes, and that was on the second day that was closed to us. So we have not seen him on the field doing things since rookie minicamp, the first day of rookie minicamp. So it's a little deal. I don't think that he's popped an Achilles or anything like that. They don't have to disclose injuries at this point in time, but the fact that he's not out there is somewhat of a concern. What exactly the lingering situation is, Brian Callahan would not disclose yesterday. The quote that he gave us on T'Vondre Sweat is that he almost gave us a little bit of a timeline. It's the closest thing I've heard to a timeline for a player since Mike Mularkey was the coach here. Basically said 2 to 3 weeks, and that's kind of matching up with where we're at right now with T'Vondre Sweat. So he said he expected him at some point, probably next week, but definitely by training camp.
Okay. Nicholas Petit-Frere, not out there for day one of mandatory minicamp. He has not been out there for any portion of the offseason program. Big deal, little deal, or no deal for Nicholas Petit-Frere?
Big deal. Big deal. Jackson is scurrying for some kind of alarm noise because every time I have a big deal, I'm going to want some giant alarm noise. This is a big deal. And here's the thing. Who is it a big deal for? Is it a big deal for the Titans that NPF is not out there right now? No, it's a little deal that NPF isn't out there right now because they got options. Is it a big deal for Titans fans that NPF's not out there right now?
Well, hang on. Oh, I don't like that.
You don't like that?
No, I didn't like that at all.
You scared him a little
made
bit.
the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
How is that like when you hear a cop siren in a song
No,
that you're
that was
listening
more
to?
than a cop. So that was like the world is ending type of siren. I did not enjoy that.
It's a big deal. That's why it's supposed to signify. Play it again, Jackson.
The air raid sounds. Please, no, make it go away.
All right, chill out.
So you say they have options, like it's no problem. They can find somebody to start at right tackle. I don't think it's that clear cut at the right tackle position.
No, it's more clear cut, I think, at right guard than it is at right tackle.
But it is. You're saying it's a bigger deal for NPF. Like it can hurt NPF himself more to not be included at this time.
It is the biggest deal for NPF because he is missing out on the invaluable reps and technical coaching. He is getting the teaching because he is in the meeting rooms, but he is not getting the actual implementation of it against Bertha, against Olga, against the 5-man sled, against the protect the pocket sled, all these different toys and tools that Bill Callahan has out there. You can articulate it. He's, supposedly an intelligent human being, Nicholas Petit Frere, so perhaps he's able to just absorb it and then implement it when it gets out on the field. But I'm going to assume that it's not going to be as seamless as that. And that this particular point in time, despite not having pads on, is invaluable for the offensive line group. So it is the biggest deal for NPF. It is a big deal for the Titans. I think it's a little deal for Titans fans because I do think you could find a tenable option there.
I'm going to lump in a couple of players here and put Colton Dowell, who is recovering from an ACL from last season, late last season, right? Was that in Houston that he suffered that, the second game against the Texans? Anyway, Colton Dowell, Shaheem Carter, Anthony Kendall, and TK McClendon, not out there. For any one of those 4 guys, big deal, little deal, or no deal.
All right, let's go one by one.
Colton Dowell, ACL.
No deal.
Shaheem Carter, the defensive back.
Little deal. He's versatile. He played some safety. They have an obvious needed safety right now, and those reps are not exclusively going to Elijah Molden, but he's getting a good chunk of them.
Anthony Kendall, the defensive back.
He's been a core special team player. Little deal for the Titans defense, bigger deal for Anthony Kendall.
And TK McClendon, the defensive end out of EKU.
I think that's it's a bit of a deal. It's a little deal. What is their defensive line depth right now? It's Keandre Coburn. It is
Joseph Day.
Oh, Sebastian Joseph Day.
And Marlon Davidson.
They've got UDFAs. So, it's not a good or deep group of defensive linemen. Any viable bodies that you can have out there, even if, again, they don't have the pads on, a little deal.
Yeah, the D-line kind of a shell of itself at the moment, right, with Sweat and Jeff not present. Is there any other position group that looks less at full strength than the defensive line group?
No, definitely not. Certainly not one that comes to mind because for the most part, everybody else has been out there.
Okay, L'Jarius Sneed. I played some audio from Brian Callahan in my update talking about managing the former Chiefs defensive back. Reported, he like you said, he exists. Saw the video of him in a Titans.
Saw him.
Titans jersey for the first time.
Yep. He's stretched.
Yes, stretched, reported, did not practice. Big deal, little deal, or no deal for L'Jarius Sneed.
It's always going to be a little deal. I think it's always, and that's not, that's not unfair. Even if Jimmy Wyatt was on the radio show on Monday saying, yeah, I'm not worried about it till training camp, or I'm not really going to be super on it until training camp, which I think is fair because it's voluntary. And if they have a better plan for him, I don't want anything that's going to jeopardize my brand new multi-million-dollar corner that I've just traded for, especially if the thing that Kansas City did worked with such great success that he appeared in all 17 games last year while still managing whatever his knee situation is. He maintains that he is healthy. It's like Tajay Spears when he got to the podium with us for the first time, or I don't even know if it was a podium setting or a scrum. Either way, talking about the ACL. And he wouldn't talk about the ACL. He just kept saying, I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I'm good to go. You know what he was? He was healthy. He was good to go. He played all year. So I'll treat Sneed the same way, but that it is a managed situation will always make it a little bit of a deal for me.
So I'm going off of Teron Davenport's kind of attendance, not spotted tweet from yesterday. I don't think I've missed anybody, right? I've listed all the names. TD is listed. Chuck in the F&M Bank chat asks, what about Caleb Farley? He was out there yesterday.
Yep, been practicing yesterday. Caleb's been practicing, I think, every day that it's been open, if I remember correctly. But yeah, he's been out there. So I think Chuck is asking more generally, like, what about it?
Sure.
Like, what's going on with him? Like the idea of safety, right? And I don't want to speak for Chuck specifically, but that seems, I think that question could go in a number of different directions.
That is not a realistic thing right now, right? The idea of Caleb Farley playing safety. Like, there's been nothing to indicate that.
It is more realistic that Caleb Farley is a gunner than he is a safety in 2024. And speaking of gunners, we will talk about Traylon Burks a little later on.
Kent on the F&M Bank chat says that Jeffrey Simmons, L'Jarius Sneed, and DeAndre Hopkins have all earned no big deal NBD status, he says. So not a big deal status.
We'll talk about the Hopkins thing when we get to the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Hopkins was out there yesterday.
He sure was. So nothing, no unnecessary hand wringing or fire starting for reasons that are silly other than you're bored.
But do you agree with that? That anytime Simmons, Sneed, and Hopkins are not out there, it'll fall under they'll be fine status.
Simmons, Sneed, and Hopkins, yes.
There's an asterisk there with Sneed.
Well, no, he's kind of earned it to me. Now, Titans fans, I think it's okay for Titans fans to maintain, well, he hasn't earned it here. He's not a two-time Super Bowl champion corner here, and that's completely fair. He has to live up to the contract and the standard that he set for himself. But I don't know. For me, if you're asking me, I'm good with it. Like, manage the dude the way that he needs to be managed. As long as he's available on Sundays, if and when, I won't say when because I don't know when, but if it becomes an issue, then we'll talk about it like an issue. For me, it's not an issue right now.
Yeah, he hardly practiced last season, yet he was extremely available and extremely productive for every game day last season. So I agree with you that it's not a concern until it is, but I'm not going to blame Titans fans for like kind of shifting around in their seat a little bit.
It's fine.
You know, just like, okay, I mean, like, I guess we got to wait till week one until we know for sure.
You've had a very pleasant offseason, okay? If there's something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, I'm not that worried about you, all right? You've been very, very coddled all offseason long, to be completely honest with the way that your team has handled the offseason. So, is that the game?
That's the game. Not that many names to run through.
No, I'm telling you, this has been a pretty drama-free offseason because it's only been good and not a lot of bad.
What's been the most dramatic point of the offseason? Post Callahan being hired, because obviously the coaching change.
Well, there is something that comes to mind, but it's an off-the-field situation. I don't know. What has been the most dramatic moment of the offseason for them? They haven't really had much. Maybe Arden saying that Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen weren't as detail-oriented as
the Ridley
maybe
thing.
Chig.
The Ridley thing was pretty dramatic, just in the way that
just the way
turned.
it went down. Just the way it went down.
Yeah,
like how they got him. Yeah, that's fair. But like that they got him and they weren't expecting to get him, because that was the whole joke, right? Rand Carthon got Calvin Ridley, didn't even try to, except he definitely tried to, and we know the whole backstory on that by now. Anyway. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the discussion. Let's go to Bracken up next.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Love the show. Love the Titans. Kind of a good segue into this. One of the more dramatic things for the Titans this year is Derrick Henry not being on the field, and I accept that. The king is gone. My question... would like to know your perspective. Was it Henry who wanted to go to more of a Super Bowl contender? Was it Rand who wanted to go with younger blood and move on and make it his team and do the rebuild, or both of the above, the reason that he is no longer in the two-tone blue?
Okay, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. Okay, so you remember in October when I told you that the team that was most interested in Derrick Henry was the Baltimore Ravens. I think Derrick did a Bussin' with the Boys episode where he talked about he very much thought that he was going to be moved to Baltimore at the trade deadline.
He said it was very close.
Very close. I know a lot of people around him, because the guy is an economy unto himself, who were considering basically having to move their whole professions and still thinking about having to move their whole professions to Baltimore because Derrick, at 30 years old, requires a good deal of everything around him to make sure that his process and his workout schedule, his regimen is sustainable. So, if you're asking me who it is more on that Derrick Henry is not a Titan, I would put it on the Titans organization, because they had already explored the viability of moving him for whatever decision they made or why ever they made the decision. We don't have the specific details on that, whether the offers were not good enough from Baltimore, whether the ownership or whomever thought it was just worth keeping the goodwill of letting Derrick Henry finish out a season here, his final season here, after being a good soldier for 8 straight seasons and being one of the best players in the history of the franchise. Also, they sucked last year, and the only way to get you guys to show up on a regular basis is to dangle Derrick Henry out in front of you. Derrick Henry and, do you remember that one time Will Levis threw 4 touchdowns against the Falcons in a game? That was the only reason to show up at Nissan Stadium last year.
There's also the philosophical shift on offense as well. And I saw Kent in the F&M Bank chat said, Derrick Henry fits every offense. But, how would Derrick Henry
does not fit every offense.
Right. How would he fit in this offense?
Derrick Henry doesn't even fit last year's Ravens offense, okay? They're going to have to make some adjustments to how they play because Derrick is a specific player. Now, Callahan made the rounds and I think at some point said that you can make an offense for Derrick Henry work. Or you can make any kind of offense for Derrick Henry work or something to that effect.
He's a great player, right? You want great players.
You want great players. If he wants to come back, we'd be happy to have him. Certainly that was the messaging. But there were football reasons to move on from Derrick. At the end of the year, they didn't do it at the trade deadline. And also, Derrick had been, the way that I understand it, Derrick had been at peace with the idea of moving on from the Titans for about a year. Once things started to clearly and obviously fray, because he wants to win. He wants there to be no doubt about his Hall of Fame resume. I'm not saying that it's very much in doubt. I think he's got the making, certainly, of a bona fide Hall of Famer. But he has to do more winning in the postseason, I think, to lock this thing up beyond just produce at a statistically high level, which is in question if the Ravens are going to use him that way. I have no idea whether it's just going to be same old Derrick Henry, between 20 and 25 carries a game, because that's the way that he works best. At least it's been the way that he works best across his entire career. So, by percentage, I'd put a larger percentage of that on the Titans for a great many reasons, and then some of it on Derrick, because I think Derrick was comfortable and at peace with the idea of hitting free agency for the first time, signing with a team that's closer to winning a Super Bowl, and trying to get a ring at this stage of his career. Okay. Chuck is up next.
Hey, Buck. New category when you get close to the camp. Go kind of evaluate the players as either are they going to be a contributor or just a body out there during camp.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind for training camp. Thanks for the call, Chuck. Yeah, we'll work through all that. It's basically what we do for 6 weeks at training camp, right? We kind of work through all the different position groups. Lucas and I are at practice every day, broadcasting from practice a lot of this. We figured out the better vantage point this year. I'm hoping, I'll need to talk to the Titans about this at some point, but they really did us a solid with the SeatGeek Terrace set up so that we could see the practice fields rather than sitting at field level, which gave us a really good element. And we also had a lot of fun with the players up there on the SeatGeek Terrace during our training camp interview series, which, by the way, will continue in an abbreviated version this week because we've got minicamp interviews for you as well. You'll hear from Rashad Weaver at the top of the noon hour. I am also going to speak with Tony Pollard later today in an interview that you will hear later on. So what are we doing next? We've got SEC observations. Hopefully the imaging is better. I sincerely doubt it. Lucas will tell you what his observations are in the SEC. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.